Our next story now. Peace still seems to evade Afghanistan. Just 2 days after signing of a landmark peace accord, the Taliban has said that it is ending its partial truce with the internationally recognized locally elected Afghan government. The statement further added that the Taliban would be resuming its operations against the nation's forces in the country. Until 5,000 of its prisoners are released by the Afghan government, the Taliban will not be taking part in the intra-Afghan talks. 2 days after the peace deal was signed, the Taliban's political chief Mullah Ghani Baradar demanded the release of 5,000 Islamic Emirate prisoners. The Taliban has also reiterated that the United States has committed to release 8 of its prisoners before the beginning of intra-Afghan talks on the 10th of March. The peace accord between the United States and the Taliban calls for confidence-building measures. The agreement also calls for the release of 5,000 Taliban prisoners by the Afghani government. And the Taliban are also under an obligation to release over 1,000 captives belonging to the Afghan government. But Ashraf Ghani, the president of Afghanistan, has refused to release the prisoners. The Taliban spokesperson, Zabihullah Mujahid, has acknowledged that they would not attack foreign forces, but he has said that the Taliban will continue its operations against Kabul. In a letter addressed to the provincial heads of the Islamic Emirate, Taliban has asked its officials to wait for its orders and be ready to carry out attacks against Kabul. The peace deal signed in Doha calls for complete withdrawal of American troops and all its civilian allies within 14 months. But Taliban's caveat demanding the release of its prisoners, and with Ashraf Ghani's tenacious stand of not budging to the Taliban, is being seen as a rare opportunity of peace going down the drain. Now we are being joined live by Anas Malik, our Pakistan Bureau Chief. Good evening to you, Anas. What do we make of Afghanistan's tough stand on denying the release of the Taliban prisoners and what this then means?
Well, just 2 days after the deal was signed, Alison, we are seeing that the deal is in tantrums and the deal is in all likelihood to be stalled. Though the Taliban say that they are committed to their part of the deal, and they say that the deal can only move forward after their 5,000 prisoners are released. Once the 5,000 prisoners that are held by the Kabul administration or the Ghani government or the NUG that is currently in power in Afghanistan, once the 5,000 prisoners of the Taliban are released, then the Taliban would be reciprocating and releasing another 1,000. Today, the Taliban have announced that they would continue to attack the Afghan forces and that they would not attack the foreign forces. Now, very interestingly, this comes in the backdrop of the deal that was signed. There was some speculation that the deal might just as well had ended, but it was clarified that they stick to their part of the deal. There was some confusion. Just to clarify that confusion, there was 7-day reduction in violence that was in place from the 22nd of February until the 29th of February. On the 29th, we saw the deal being inked in Doha, and following that, the point number 3 of part 1 of the deal that the Taliban have to abide by, that clearly says that whenever the intra-Afghan dialogue takes place, the complete ceasefire and a proper ceasefire would be part of the agenda. Therefore, today the Taliban have announced that they would indeed be going ahead and attacking the Afghan ANA, the Afghan National Army, and the ANDSF, the Afghan National Defense Special Forces, those which have been actively conducting operations against the Taliban in Afghanistan. Now, this might come as a spoiler as well, because yesterday we saw the Ghani government, the President Ashraf Ghani, announcing that he would have to review because his government was not taken on board with regards to the release of those 5,000 prisoners. So, as I said, there are some hiccups to this deal, but the Taliban are reiterating that they are committed to their part of the deal. So now all eyes would be later this week when Zalmay Khalilzad, the US Special Envoy for Afghan Peace, when he lands in Kabul, and when he lands in Kabul, that would be the point to see whether he would be able to convince the Afghan administration to release these 5,000 prisoners or not, because if at all he is not able to convince them, then the future of this Afghan peace deal that was inked, or the agreement that was inked in Doha, that would there would be doubts over the future of this agreement and with regards to the feasibility of this agreement on how to go about it, given that the basic condition would not be in that case not be met. Yes, Alison.
Of course, the problem there with the Afghanistan government not being a part of these talks between the United States and the Taliban, and promises being made on their behalf. So this move by the Taliban does not go a long way in inspiring confidence, considering it has just been 2 days since signing the peace deal. What does this then mean for the peace deal at large? Where do we go from here?
Well, the people at large of Afghanistan would continue to suffer, and we're seeing that with the announcement by the Afghan Taliban's military commission that they would continue to attack the Afghan forces. We saw a bomb blast as well in Afghanistan that killed at least 3 just today. This was right after the announcement of the deal, about 48 hours later. So the people of Afghanistan, it would be the people of Afghanistan that would continue to suffer. Having said that, the US, they were, if I take you through the 3 tiers that were set by the US administration just ahead of their negotiations when they commenced in 2018 October. The first tier was the US of Taliban talks, direct talks, and a deal between them. The second tier is the intra-Afghan talks that is to be held, and the third tier is taking regional powers on board. So the first tier has been achieved with the deal or the agreement being inked in Doha. Now it's all eyes are on towards the second part of the second tier, whether or not it could be achieved. So as I said, there are hiccups. There is some careful consideration, and by the looks of it, the Kabul administration or Afghan government is not happy with the fact that they have been ignored, because they have time and again reiterated that they are the ones who are in power and the Taliban should be talking to them directly. Though that has not been the case, and US went ahead and directly spoke to the Taliban. So there have been some resentment within Kabul, within the Ghani government, and that is being reflected through the announcement, through the statement that was made by Afghan President Ashraf Ghani yesterday, where he said that he would have to carefully review the release of 5,000 prisoners that has been committed by the United States, because these prisoners, this is very important, because these prisoners are in the captivity of the Afghan government and not in the captivity of the US government. So it would be Afghan government's decision. And as I said, all eyes would be on the visit of US Special Envoy on Afghan peace, Zalmay Khalilzad, Ambassador Zalmay Khalilzad, when he lands later this week in Kabul, as to how things would pan out between the United States and the Afghan government with regards to the future of this deal.
Right.
Yes, Alison.
Anas, thank you very much for that report. That is our Pakistan Bureau Chief, Anas Malik, bringing us the latest